Hi guys, welcome to Kitchen Kilogram. This week, after doing a lot of house chores, I was hoping to make something simpler and to satisfy the craving for red meat. I'm back with the second episode of mutton curry. It is after all a curry mixed with whole and powdered spices added at a specific time that blends with the natural juices of mutton bones over a period of time. In our list, we also have Khamiri Roti or fermented flat bread that goes well with any of the curry item or kebab rolls. In my previous episodes, we tried making the curry with black stone flour as its main spice, but this one is much simpler than that. So if you don't want to grind, beat or make a huge effort to fill yourself up, this is the right recipe for you, well except for Khamiri Roti. We'll start off with the dough as it requires time to ferment and proof before we turn it into a tasty flat bread. We'll take 2 cups of whole wheat flour and add 1.5 teaspoon of table salt in it. Then in a separate bowl, we'll take 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast and add about half a cup of lukewarm water followed by 1 teaspoon of honey. We'll cover it for about 10 minutes until the yeast becomes active before we start mixing it into the flour. Till the time yeast is activating and feeding itself off with honey, we will add about 1.5 teaspoon of salt in about 500 grams of goat meat. Here I've taken ran or leg and thigh pieces of a goat. By adding salt at this stage especially, we are reducing the cooking time for mutton. We'll cover it and keep it aside for the later stage and quickly start working on the dough. Well, now I'm adding salt about 1 teaspoon, but you should add a little extra to it. To this, we will add first the activated yeast, which is nice and frothy by now, followed by water, which we are required to add slowly and knead it until the flour starts releasing its gluten while we turn it into a soft dough. Feeling dough with your hand seems just right to make this bread in its traditional way. With this, we will spread some olive oil or just any other oil to give it rest till it doubles in size, which usually takes about an hour, or for best result, you can prepare this in an overnight fermentation process while covering it with a clean damp cloth. We'll keep the dough in a warm area. I usually keep it right over the top of the refrigerator usually, or inside the oven with just a fan on. Or if you want faster results, you can also put the dough in any steel jar or any dark colored jar and keep it in the sunlight. The reaction process will definitely increase. So now when I have demonstrated a little bit about my chopping skills, I'll start with the mutton curry and get right to it. In a deep steel pan with warm oil or ghee, we'll add whole spices in some measured quantities such as 1 teaspoon of fennel, half teaspoon of cumin seeds, half teaspoon of black peppercorns, 2 sprigs of mace, 1 star anise. Then we have 2 bay leaf, 1 big cardamom, 3 small cardamom and half a stick of cinnamon as well. We'll first add 2 large onions which are sliced and add a very little salt to it. We'll turn the flame high initially until they are nicely mixed. Without stirring further, just leave it on a low flame till they are slightly brown in color. Don't make them golden brown in this. But I gave it that extra minute anyway, so you don't have to make that mistake. Well, now it's time to put mutton in it, the one we kept in the fridge with a little salt in it. And once we add that, we need to keep the flame to full high and sear the mutton till the pink color disappears and the flavors are all locked inside of it. Some salt is definitely needed here before we lock it. Once that is done, we will keep the lid on it on a slow flame for about 30 minutes. You will see that the mutton has released its juices and blended well with the onions in a fine brown color, and the smell of the whole spices is out of this world. It is at this point you start seeing that it is slowly turning in a curry. However, it's just not there yet. We still have a lot of things to add. So after the 30 minutes lockdown, the first thing to go in it is ginger garlic paste, which I have freshly made. We will quickly mix it up with the mutton and close the lid for about 30 to 45 seconds. Once you start smelling the fragrance of ginger garlic paste, it is time to add all the powdered spices in it. Keeping 500 grams of mutton weight in mind, we'll add 1 teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, 1 teaspoon of mutton masala and 1 teaspoon of garam masala, which I have freshly prepared at my home. We'll gently mix it with mutton and also add very little water to prevent the spices from burning. And again, mixing it gently, we'll close the lid for about 30 seconds. So this way the steam produced helps in penetrating the fragrance inside the flesh. But make sure not to keep it for more than 30 seconds, else what happens is there is always chances for the powdered spices to get burned. Right after opening the lid, I'm adding 2 grated tomatoes, and at this stage we will also add some salt and again close the lid for 10 more minutes or till the time the oils get separated from the tomatoes. Till the mutton is reaching its final stages, we will quickly check on the khamiri dough, bounce back all the air in it and leave it again covered with a damp cloth for about 20 more minutes. Here I am again using mutton stock instead of water, as there is definitely a huge difference in the two. It's always better, and I'm quite proud of myself as well for never forgetting to keep aside some stock when cooking different things. So from this point, after adding stock or water, we'll simply have to give it a boil for about 15 to 20 minutes. If you are using lamb meat, then probably the duration will be approx another 30 to 45 minutes. We'll start prepping for Khamiri Roti's third and final proofing in this time, and also chop some fresh coriander for the pictures. So we'll make some dough balls here and give it a rest for another 15 to 20 minutes, all covered with the damp cloth. This way less air will escape while we are giving the roti its original round shape. So here we are with mutton curry episode 2, and for the lazy kind, go for the boiled rice or those frozen chapatis, which are quite popular among the hostelers these days. So for a quick recap, take 500 grams of mutton, add some salt in it, rest for 30 minutes, take some whole spices but don't leave out fennel and cardamom in this recipe. In hot oil or ghee, pour in all the whole spices, add 2 large sliced onions, slightly brown them, add mutton in it, sear it over high flame. Once pink color is gone, slow down the flame and leave it with a closed lid and slow flame for 30 minutes. Add ginger garlic paste, close the lid for 30 seconds, add powdered spices and mutton masala with a little water, close the lid for another 30 seconds, add tomatoes, salt and close the lid on slow flame for another 10 minutes. Add mutton stock or water in it for the gravy, give it a boil for 20 to 25 minutes, garnish it with coriander, and there you have it with khamiri roti or rice. Mutton curry part 2 is done. I will be back with my next episode, so stay safe and try to enjoy this amazing month of October.